And we are back, bitch.
No, you actually screamed. I forgot you had that
shit. And we are back, volume motherfucking 10. What's today's motherfucking volume? We observing what?
Attachment versus authenticity.
So yeah, we're gonna speed through this one, but not really speed through it. But we're gonna try to keep it concise, keep it right, and keep it tight.
Kiss.
Keep it simple, stupid. Anyway, what does that mean for you? What does that mean to you? What do you mean when you say it? Break that shit down. Make it make sense.
Attachment versus authenticity. Simple, prime example. We choose to keep people around us knowing that they don't have our greatest intention at heart, but because there's an attachment there inside of us, and we're being reminded through whatever relationship we have with them of a parent that wasn't there, a traumatic event that we experienced where we had some type of gripe or emotional reaction to it. So now there's a feeling there that is repressed, and now I'm choosing to be attached to this person who, again, does not have my best interest, but I'm repressing my authentic nature. I'm repressing my authentic self. I'm scared or fearful of being who I am in the moments I need to be.
Now, can you have an authentic attachment? Or if it's an attachment, it's got to be inauthentic because it's an attachment only? Or can there be authentic attachments?
I think you can have an organic attachment.
It's not authentic.
No, I don't feel... When we're talking about attachment, essentially we're talking attachment versus connection. So if there's an attachment there, that means somewhere along the lines, somebody's not receiving what they're putting out. Or that person, whoever it is not giving whatever is needed in certain moments. With the authenticity, I feel is straight, there's a connection there. So that means if I'm being authentic and my authenticity is met, there is no attachment. That's now a connection. It's an equal exchange, as opposed to the attachment. If my attachment is authentic, I feel like that would make it a connection.
So it's no longer an attachment, you believe, once it becomes a connection.
Once there is an equal charge, are you really attached? Or is there symbiosis? Is there some type of data exchange, emotional exchange, sexual exchange, mental exchange? Are you both growing? Are you both learning? Are you both in creating a safe environment? Whether it's friendship, relationship, when there's an attachment there, that means it's like you're holding on to something that is not serving you.
Attachment is being parasitic in nature.
Prime example.
Yeah.
What do you feel about attachment versus authenticity?
That's a lens I definitely would observe from and see is clear and concise, because in the word of attachment, to be attached to, that doesn't mean that it's of my own choice. It doesn't mean that it's of my own knowledge, even that there's something attached to me.
Until you become aware.
Until I become aware. So yeah, I can see how in essence and in nature, it's not authentic if one's attached to me, because what are you attached to and for what reason? It's not a cohesive unit. It is a parasitic unit. The attachment can shift. You can be attached to something about me and you'll notice that same thing in another and attached to them. Attachment shifts, whereas cohesive bonds and symbiosis usually doesn't, because to interrupt symbiosis is to interrupt the natural law that's been created.
Also, too, when you're attached, that means you are grabbing onto something because you're lacking something. Because if you had what you're looking for or what you're seeking, there's no reason for you to attach.
You're going to search for it with another.
I'm attaching to something that is feeding a feeling that I am repressing. So if I had a childhood where I wasn't shown love in the ways that I felt I should have received it, whether that's through affection, whether it's through compassion, whether it's through loyalty, support. If I didn't have that, now I may feel that I'm not worthy of that. I may feel that people who show me manipulative behavior, abusive behavior, they're with me and they're validating the version I am. So I must be accepted. I'm accepting them because they're accepting the version I am now, not the version that I have the potential to be. So the version I am now is still operating from the trauma, which is an embellishment, but they're feeding me the attention. They're feeding me in those moments where I feel like I'm nothing. They're validating that I am, but still they're abusing me. Still they're having me, I'm not even saying having me not value myself, but they're reinforcing the fact that I don't value myself. And I'm not willing to give that up.
Do they value themselves?
Them, that person?
Those individuals?
No, but
not
I'm not going to say that nobody is making me not value myself.
No, you're just marrying each other. That's why I was curious. Like, the person we're speaking of in any sense, historically through our past, I know that people that I say, quote unquote, didn't value me, I recognize in the same breath, they truly didn't value themselves. So I don't really look at it as not valuing me. I have to understand that I wasn't being valued, but there was an inability. Personal. Yeah, there was no one was being valued. So when that no one's special, I have to observe, like, yes, quote unquote, I, the ego, the persona that I can observe was not being valued. But then in the greater scheme of the connectivity of the human experience, I'm like, fuck, you don't value anything or anyone. Why would I have been different? ¿Qué lo que?
Stupid.
Puerto Rico.
That's
Toma.
I was looking at something that was talking about how narcissists are created through the parents.
Well, narcissism is a beautiful thing. I don't know why we've put so much evil, denigration, and strangeness on narcissism. Do you even know the definition of a narcissist?
The true definition?
Yeah, like the textbook definition of a narcissist versus like humble. We'll put this shit up on the screen too. I'll make sure to include this one. This one's great.
I imagine it has to do with being selfish.
All right, no. Personality qualities include thinking very highly of oneself, needing admiration, believing others are inferior, and lacking empathy for others. But the first thing is thinking very highly of oneself. That is the first thing they want you to know, that if you're even trying to like categorize narcissism, first red flag, they think highly of themselves. Now, you know what it is to be humble? You know what it is to be humble? Having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Aren't we taught to be humble?
Yes.
Isn't humility supposed to be our sign of higher self?
Yeah.
But again, power of words, correct? Okay. Having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. But again, first step of being a narcissist is valuing oneself. So I'm a little skeptical right now of how we're using the word narcissist in the culture, and I'm a little concerned about how we're pushing the idea of humility and humbleness onto mankind in a time where right now we need way less humble people. We need way less humble people. Personal observation. Because I've been deemed a narcissist, so I had to actually look that shit up. And I'm like, damn, I do think highly of myself. And it took me a long time to get there because I didn't think anything of myself.
Okay.
That was being humble.
Okay. So.
And this is a part of the authentic, and I'm tying this into, is this attachment or is this the authentic? And is the attachment even real? Because I'm attached to the idea of myself, the true idea of myself. Once I recognize what that idea of me is, a floating amorphous thing that's observing, I get attached to it, but I feel like that's the authentic.
Because you're no longer serving self, you're observing self.
I'm observing self, and I feel it. I see it, I sense it, I feel it, I know it.
To think highly of, that means, is that a comparison?
I would say only in comparison to what I once was, yeah. If I think highly of myself, that means at one point I thought lowly of myself. In essence, it's the only reason I even have to state I think highly of myself. That means that at some point I did not.
Now, what I think the context and what it's being propagated as, if I think highly of, it said of oneself.
Of oneself, yeah.
So that can be interpreted. If I think highly of oneself, that means I'm grading that against others who may be deemed lower.
Right, and that's why they then go into lack of empathy and viewing others as inferior, yes.
So if we're playing, again, the
Devil's
comparison
advocate.
game, that means that I could see why being a narcissist is a quote-unquote negative quality, because I have to put others down to raise me up. As opposed to, I'm just saying, not that it is interpreted, but it can be interpreted like that. As opposed to with humility, because my question was, where is the balance? Is there a balance between the humility, the highly, narcissism, humbleness? Is it, or is that something that each version of the self has to define themselves?
I feel like we're going to experience each portion of it to recognize the true self.
You said something key earlier. No matter the seeds, the soil would determine who you are. If we all come from the same soil, is it just the choices that are determining what versions of the self we are manifesting?
Even if we all came out of the same pot initially, we wouldn't be the same soil after a fucking day or two, because we'd have different contaminants going into the soil depending on where we are. We'd have different life starting to brew depending on what the temperate zone is, what the shock of the area is, what the natural the natural topography of the area is, what type of earth it allows to exist there. What you said. So we're talking about soil and the representation of the soil being the individual spirit and the source being like that big giant pot where all the soil starts, so we're on the same page. Yeah, we all started from that same pot, and it was all the same soil in that giant pot. And as soon as that shit got scooped into the individual pot, and the individual pot started getting taken away from the source, the further it got away from the source, the more individual the soil became.
But does it stop being from the source?
It's from the source. It's not the source soil anymore. It is
It's
of
just
the
source.
Exactly. I am of the source. I cannot be the source. I have to return to the source to be the source.
In this moment, I am of.
Exactly. So any pot, any soil, yeah, we could have all started from the same source. But as soon as we got taken away from source, we became something akin to an individual. And it's only
that's where you exude the balance between humanity and divinity.
Yes.
Along this journey.
Because it's only so long you're going to get to separate yourself from the source before, like a rubber band, you can snap back. And then you reintegrate. And recognize that all of your individuality.
Fibonacci sequence.
The Fibonacci sequence, exactly. Exactly.
Get out of my head.
Exactly. And we just talked about that shit
today.
Exactly. 369. So yeah. So there's a curvature of time.
Roots.
There's a curvature of existence. There's a curvature of everything, and it all loops and folds back in on itself at some point, including our own existence, including what we consider our individual experience to be. Because our individual experience is just tied to the one is the collective, meaning that if there's a bajillion trillion neurons in the universe and we're the representations of the living being of the universe, we don't know we're source. We just have the semblance of a facsimile of an idea that there's something more we're connected to. And then we assign names, religions, deities, so we can... Exactly.
Fucking up.
So that we can attempt to get closer to source, but that takes us away from. because source in and of itself is just resonance of the frequency of self to the frequency of all that's around.
Say it again.
You know what I mean?
Say it again. You know what? I think we should stop there because
Oh, yeah,
part two,
no,
that was.
Yeah. But attachments and what you call it, the authentic experience. I don't know.
Authenticity.
I don't know if authenticity and attachment are that separate, especially if we're going based on where a person is on the scale of existence in the moment. But with that said,
okay. Now I think the real question is, can they both reside in the same space, in the same moment? That's really what we're asking.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Doesn't mean we're going to perceive it, though. It's happening. It's all happening at once. Doesn't mean we perceive it. Past, present, future, overlap. Doesn't mean we can perceive it in the dimension in which we exist. We aren't the fifth dimensional higher beings.
Schrodinger's cat.
But we are Schrodinger's cat, for sure. You know, on that note, like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend that they're fucking Schrodinger's cat. And if I look inside your box, you're dead. You're dead. And hit the bell. Ka-ching.